One thing I wanted to ask you about, Leigh, and because we don't have your perspective a lot on the show, take me through a week, because a lot of times we get asked, Tommy does, preparations for each race, spotter-wise, preparations for each. What's a week of prep look like for you, or even starting the season for you?
Well, starting the season, obviously I'm playing catch-up because we do the last 14 races. So, and then during the course of a normal year, I'm doing other sports. So I have to focus on what I'm working on, but also keep an eye on what's happening in the Cup Series. And then, so that's the casual way of preparing. And then when it gets closer, then I go into almost like when you're at school, like cramming. And especially last year when I came off the Olympics, and then I just had like 10 days to get ready. Yeah. That was pretty full on. But I would say keeping in touch with the stories, in the first part, and then you get into your rhythm. And now that I'm in this for 14 straight weeks, I don't have to necessarily think about anything else. So I can just be fully immersed in NASCAR, which is really nice. It's watching a lot of tape. I've always been a huge fan of that. So I take a lot in by watching. You've got all your traditional stuff like press releases, what's in the media, social media. And then the more people I get to know in the sport, then you can do direct. So it's texts or it's phone conversations, it's in person. As you know, now the entire sport is supported by Racing Insights, not just television now. Those guys are invaluable with the stuff that they do. So kind of all goes into the pot. I listen to a lot of the interviews, not only that you guys do, but on SiriusXM and just it's kind of like whatever you can get your hands on, put it all in the pot, and whenever it comes out, use it appropriately.
You mentioned the Olympics. What is that like to prepare for? Because, you're talking about, I would assume, hundreds of athletes that you're calling races or events for. Like, how much do you have to get immersed in that? It's got to be insane.
It's kind of like you've got this bottle of water, but you only use a mouthful. But you've got to carry that around with you the whole time and read it all and try and absorb it. And sometimes a lot of it, to use like an old movie term or whatever, a lot of it ends up on the cutting room floor. You don't use it, but you have to read it and watch it, learn it, and then not always do you use it. So.
I know we were talking at Loudon. We were talking about coming on here, but then we talked about, and Loudon was one of the races you said this may be the last track on the schedule that you hadn't already been to. The one thing I want to add, I will not ask you what's your favorite racetrack, because I feel like that's such a loaded question, but along the way, what are some of the tracks that have stood out to you, like that you've seen for the first time? I remember Darlington, I think last year was one that you mentioned, like this is a place like, oh, this is just such a historic track, but along the way, what tracks have stood out to you?
I think the first time that I went to Talladega, which was only last year, that was pretty wild. Got there first thing in the morning and just walked out onto pit road by myself and just taking the enormity of it all. That was pretty special. I'd been to Talladega, but across the road to the dirt track years ago, but never been to Talladega. So that was pretty cool. Really liked the older tracks. Martinsville was pretty neat. Just the way that they're just set into that local surroundings. Bristol, it's pretty amazing. So been lucky to go to a lot of tracks around the world, but to be learning these historic NASCAR tracks is really neat.